Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Inky Thoughts podcast. Today, I'm starting off a series I've been wanting to start for a little bit that I'm going to call Beyond the Gate, where I want to talk to people in marginalized groups and communities within the tattoo industry and tattoo culture about their perspectives and try to highlight them. And in lieu of this episode coming out in the time for Black History Month in the US, I have invited on what I would think is the perfect first guest. Person some people might know if you follow American or Afro-American tattoo culture to some extent, and a person that I would say, despite his own modesty, has some passion and quite the bit of first-hand knowledge and wisdom to give on this topic, I would argue myself. But before going too much into it, I will throw it over to Melvin and let Melvin introduce himself. So if you please.
Yeah, my name is Melvin Todd. I go by Loveless Melvin, just in the art space. I am the owner and creator of Loveless Society, which is a tattoo-based brand that showcases, people and what we love in this world today. So I get to hear a lot of stories, and I'm a big believer in uniqueness and healing. I'm also the creator of the comic Loveless Cupid, as well as I Hate Healing. And both of those can be found on Instagram under those same names.
Yeah, they're quite they're taking a bit of a peek. I won't say I've read everything of the comics, but the stuff I've seen is quite a cool art style where it seems you're quite inspired both by your own cultural experience in your life, and also, as we spoke about a bit before the interview, your love of love, so to speak, to say it in a bit of a cheesy way. But it's a cool art style as well. Can you tell me a bit more about it? What inspires it?
I'm a big just anime geek. I started with Dragon Ball like in middle school. I think that was the first animated I like formally saw, but I used to be a fan of Ninja Turtles and just all type of I'm one of those kids that every Saturday morning, had a bowl of cereal sitting in front of the TV. I'm a grown man still sitting in front of my TV in a cartoon.
Hey, no harm in that. I'm absolutely the same, mate. No worries there.
And obviously that led me to tattooing, but I always thought I would be like a comic artist or, something like that. My grandma, she used to give me the Sunday paper that had the Sunday funnies in them and stuff. So I was always addicted to that. So even though tattooing is something that, I'm very passionate about, it's always been just a dream to kind of have a comic in that Sunday strip. And, with Instagram, people don't read the newspaper no more. So I'm able to just give it on my news feed, and people are able to take it in. And I get to just talk about the stuff that I want to talk about now that I don't have an editor or a publisher or anything like that. So I get to just talk about whatever. And because of that, I'm able to be a lot more adult on my humor and stuff like that and talk about real issues. And like you said, with love, my love life has been just a continuous learning lesson, just like many people. And so I try to make something that's relatable that I don't see out in the art space at all, especially in the comic book space and comic strip space. And I'm having fun with it. The biggest thing, I Hate Healing and even Loveless Cupid, they both have Black male protagonists at the core of it. And so that's something that I know a lot about, obviously. And I'm able to give a perspective that a lot of people don't really get to see. We have a lot of stigmas and stuff like that of how a Black man is in America, especially how we love and stuff like that. And, you can look at the music videos and all these things, or and you get a certain perception and be like, okay, that's how they are. But it's no, we're human. We have feelings. A lot of time we've been taught certain ways to be macho and the bravado, which a lot of males do at the end of the day. But for us, it's, I think it's added layers on top of that, where we do hold our feelings in because we got to be tough. We can't show weakness because of all of the things that Black males are just faced with just in Black in America. And so I wanted to destigmatize a lot of that. So with Loveless Cupid, it goes into love, the love aspect of it. And what I Hate Healing, it goes into the traumas and how we deal with those. And so they've been some of the most impactful work I've ever done. And I'm not even trying to be I want to make millions off of this. I just want to tell some honest truth and have fun doing it. And it's been cool to see the dialogue that's like circulated around that. And so it's something that I plan to continue as I go deeper into those subjects.
But yeah, I mean, I've at least from what I've seen, the two things that really stand out to me about the art for both your comic books and also just your art in general is that there's definitely that level of honesty to it, that there's no like trying to censor or hide anything. It's very much finding this common language through an art style you've created where you can tell your personal experience and let people in, but also without shaming or censoring any parts of it. Like I really love that about your artwork, that one moment it's something very, very cute or angels and cherubs like you describe it on your Instagram, and the next moment it can be something almost kink related and stuff like that. It's very cool in that way that it sort of takes different aspects into consideration.
Right. I just think it's important to just be honest. At the end of the day, like I feel a lot of people, especially with commercialized art, we try to pander to like is the widest net of people we can get. And to me, I think I'm not really. I think you should make the art that's true and honest to you and whoever. There's so many people on Earth, and with the social media and the internet, like we connect to like so many people. It's like you just want to find those people that are into what you do, and that should be good enough. Like I was looking at some video yesterday, and it was talking about how somebody like a Mr. Beast or just a famous YouTuber, right? They have like hundreds of millions of views on their page, right? On their videos. But only still, even with that, only so many people know those creators. And it's like, well, that's wild because like, they showed some statistic like the season finale of Seinfeld, one of the most popular shows in human history, the season finale, not season, series finale, the last episode of Seinfeld, pulled in 81 million viewers, right? Like I think I got that right. And that's half of what an average Mr. Beast video will pull in, but yet the average person doesn't know Mr. Beast, but the average person knows Seinfeld, and it's because
even people that didn't watch it know Seinfeld. It becomes a cultural phenomenon in a way.
Of like, now we have so much accessibility to us. We can pick and choose what we want to see, and we live in this world where it's like this thing is really important to us, but a lot of other people don't know it. And I find that really fascinating because at the end of the day, we still try to operate like, oh, we gotta like, a lot of people are going to consume this one thing at a certain time. It's this certain community that comes around that, but it's like, no, it's not the case anymore. And so because of that, I'm like, you might as well just make what you want and like find your audience because that's the only people that's going to support you anyway at the end of the day. So
plus it also, like you were talking about before, it also creates more representation of more different groups. If everybody just caters to this, as I would say as a sociologist, imagined greater like common denominator, which is wrongfully based on mainly white men like myself, there's not going to be any representation for any other groups.
Yeah, exactly.
It fades away. Even when you look at it, before the early or late 10s, early noughts and stuff like that, even nerds like me, even though white, were heavily underrepresented. So there's nothing really catering to us. Even among the stuff we consume, the heroes will always be like, like the straight-laced white guy. Even Superman back in the day, if we go into comic book nerdery, which I love, when he's not actually actively Superman, especially back in the day, he's just Clark Kent, the normal white-laced, white-collar worker,
Yeah, it's interesting, and I will say I've been enjoying like just the vast representation that I'm seeing, and all of it's not for me, and that's cool. Like I think that's the other thing too. Like people are like, oh, you gotta like this or you're not progressive, and it's like I'm just gonna be attracted to what I'm attracted to. There's so many things already distracting me anyway. Like I can consume the media I want, and then I find myself being like, oh, like I like the things that have like protagonists with people of color, and I'm like, wow, it feels good to finally see that, and I can gravitate to it and it not be a big deal anymore, rather than being like, oh, let me try to place myself in the role of, whoever the protagonist is, like a Superman or a Batman. Now you got Black Panther. He's just like Batman, essentially, but with his own rich backstory and stuff like that. So it's cool just to see like so many different like ways to do that. So as a creator, I'm like, let me just be true to myself and put that out. And it doesn't have to be for everybody, but as long as like, I'm putting out something that I feel good about. That's what I care about.
Yeah, I mean, representation matters, and it's even better when you can do something, because when you do something you feel great about, and feel passionate about. Like with me with this podcast, I don't care that this may be too nerdy for some people or get too into the sociological aspect of that. And I especially don't care if people think I promote diversity too much, because that's my passion with this. I mean, so I'd rather have a niche of really nerdy people that want to develop and improve this industry and all that stuff than I want to cater to everybody.
Right.
Like, so I really get that feeling for you as well, that it's way better to do something you're truly passionate about and put your soul and your passion into it than say, oh, what can garner me the most followers? What's going to get most people interested in this? And because then you always have to sell out to some extent.
Exactly. And again, you're going to find your audience anyway. When I first started tattooing, I worked at a predominantly white shop. I was like one of like only 2, 3 Black people that worked there throughout my tenure. And I was definitely the minority. And once I moved to Atlanta, I worked at a predominantly Black tattoo shop. As a matter of fact, we probably had only a sprinkle of white or just, other races come through and become tattoo artists there. But my clientele flipped from being like, oh, like it's kind of, maybe like 50-50 to, no, I have a predominantly Black clientele now. Like, my white clients and other ethnicities, they're like my minority now. And it's okay. I'm making more money than I made before. And it's funny that, you kind of like force fed this thing of like, if you don't target yourself toward, just middle America and like what is the base of like the customer base, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. I'm okay, like, having a majority Black clientele now. Like, they have beyond responded and made my life very comfortable. And,
That's good.
it's just falsehoods, these things that we've been implanted that aren't true, and, I tell people all the time, like, put out what's true to you and just let it attract whoever it attracts. My comic, like I make sure I use like Black protagonists because I know that voice, I feel weird now if I had like a majority, like, cast of white characters, because it's like, okay, well, where is my voice in this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's important. And I'm the only person that knows how to say that. I like my personal experience. I know that voice the best. Not saying that I can't write those characters, but saying that I want to make sure, because it feels good to me, that I interject that at some point in there. As before, like when I was a kid, honestly, I used to think there was no way I'd have a comic strip or a cartoon if I didn't have like a male white protagonist, and maybe I could sneak in a Black like side character. I used to think that, but that was the programming, you know what I mean?
I can't fault a younger Mel for thinking that, because you see, even today when you get shows coming out, shit, even Korra, the new Avatar series, even though they were so popular the first one, and even that tried to put in more POC characters, people were so angry at first when Korra came out, and it's an amazing show because there was POC characters here and there, and Korra herself was not ambiguously white or anything like that. She was a person of color, and people got so mad at that, even though the show was amazing.
Right. So yeah, I love the change. Obviously, some of it, because of the time, some of it can feel a little bit forced. I like it when it feels genuine. When it feels like this character was written with their own unique backstory. We weren't just like swapping things just to like see if we can like be with the times. But people love when it feels real and when it doesn't. There's no way people.
I think people are pretending when they argue they can't feel the genuineness. Like, it seems, even though I'm speaking from a white background, it seems very clear when it's something's genuinely like, hey, this is just a cool character. We thought this situation might be interesting to this time. Make it a Black voice or a Southeast Asian voice, and the character's still cool and has a cool story. Then it's very genuine.
Yeah.
If it's just a color switch, so to say, then you can always tell. Like,
we see what you're doing. Like, like if you're gonna do that, like,
it's blackwashing in a way when you see really big companies sometimes be like, oh yeah, now we'll just insert this ambiguously colored character for no reason. But there's actual genuine people of color out there creating awesome stuff with a different perspective, and it's great.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're gonna do that, just make it go all the way different. Like, you already went skin deep, go culturally deep, all of
I think
that.
Taika Waititi said that at one point. He's like, no, we don't want a white story told with a Maori cast and then call it, we want, if you want to make more Maori voices heard, then make a Maori show made by Maori people with Maori people.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
exactly it. Like they don't want. I think a lot of misunderstanding often is that people that are so anti new perspectives often think like, no, they're gonna interject these people into our stuff. No, they just want a fucking stage as well. Like people just want their perspective and their story told as well and their representation. There's no like we can all be here. There's enough space for everybody, I think.
Right. And shoot, I think like with a lot of those stories, you don't have to change up nothing. Just keep like again, keep it true. Like you'll be surprised. Like we'll go still see it. We've been watching that shit for forever.
Yeah.
But also like create things that feel authentic for us as well. Like by getting those voices to create, like we want to support that stuff too. You don't have to put it on a popular IP for us to come like check it out. Like again, something like Black Panther. Like we loved Black Panther. I wasn't like trying to pander to anything. It was like this established character that had it was a niche market, but everybody was surprised at how much revenue that niche market could generate. And it's like, yeah, we want to show up as long as it feels real, if it feels right to us. But if you'd have made like Black Batman, we'd have been like, nah, you're doing it again. See, you're doing it again.
But I will say, that's the thing that got me angry at one point, because not angry at the creators of Batman, but people got so pissed that they didn't make a new Black Batman. They made another sidekick that like took over in a side story that was a black,
right.
part of the Bat family. And it's like, why get angry at that? It's another character. You can still get Batman. It's still going to be white billionaire Bruce Wayne.
Like that's what we want too. Like give us his story. Like why, like how did he hook up with Batman and all of this other stuff? Like, but with his own cultural background and stuff like that, that's a new character. Like we like that stuff. Like it's kind of like
and like with Miles Morales, where they make a new Spider-Man and a black kid, and it's like they didn't remove Peter Parker. They made another guy and said, okay, what if this guy experienced something similar but with a different background, with a different perspective? It's great,
Yeah, we love that stuff. So
at least it tickles my fancy as a sociologist, because I love different cultures and making sure everybody gets heard and all that stuff. So like, I'm biased here, I know, but as a comic book nerd as well, it's still cool to see other perspectives.
Right.
It's a bit like getting angry at Star Wars for there being too many aliens sometimes. Like
that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, which was another, just to digress with a funny joke I think Melvin would get as well. It's a bit like when Star Wars fans got angry that they introduced Finn. No, what's he called? Finn, John Boyega's character.
Look, I'm not even a Star Wars fan.
Oh, it's okay. But it's just like people got so angry at there being a new black guy in the new trilogy, and it was just like, yeah, but wasn't it weird in a galaxy far, far away that there was only 2 black guys in the first one? Like,
yeah,
that seems so weird that we are in a galaxy far, far away in a time long, long ago, and there's 2 black guys among all these aliens and just white people. There's more white people than even aliens in the show, and it's just, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I can't defend that one. Like, I'll still enjoy the movies and all that stuff, but I'll never be on the side of like, but that's just how it is, man. It was just like, no, it makes no sense. Like,
all out for what it is. Like, yeah, it's fucked up. You know what's going on.
you've got alien species that actually eat other people, and you're like, no, there can't be more black people here. What?
Black people taste delicious, probably, so they can eat.
That reminded me of was it Jeffrey Dahmer that said that people with tattoos taste bad?
Oh man, maybe.
I think well, at least that gets us back to the tattoo thing. But yeah, I think so. Jeffrey Dahmer said that he hated eating people with tattoos because we taste bad. So I mean, at least we're cannibal proof.
Ah, crap, that's terrible. I would assume tattoo ink is pretty terrible.
But going back a bit, and I saw, as I confessed, I saw a documentary recently where you talked about how long ago you started tattooing in 2004. And we've had quite a good laugh for now, not to sour the mood, but I can't imagine even in 2004 it was too easy getting into it. It sounds like it went quite fast, at least how you told in the documentary how you got into tattooing, but it can't have been as smooth as for some other people, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah, I got lucky, with me personally, but it was funny because if I really sit back and think about my mindset around that time, Like I just went to college and they were looking for an apprentice. It was kind of a very hippie kind of shop, like I wonder if they would like consider themselves that. But to me, I was like, these guys are like hippies to me. And so, that's a really accepting culture, like in general.
Mm.
And, from what I knew with the tattoo industry, mind you, this is early 2000s. So we're still kind of like technically in the old school tattoo industry. We all thought like bikers and, stuff like that. It was, it was still kind of was that stigma. That's what a tattoo shop was. So since I was working at this hippie shop, I literally assumed like I didn't know any other black tattoo artists other than myself at the time. And so I thought like, honestly, I was like, man, I'm going to be like the first black tattoo artist like in 2004, like because I didn't know any,
Mm.
and that was completely like false. I was living in Alabama,
Yeah.
Auburn, Alabama. That's a country college city, and pretty quickly as I started to see more magazines and stuff like that. And eventually I did get a few black coworkers. I started to see like, oh, there are a lot of other black people that
Mm.
tattoo. And once I moved to Atlanta and started working at City of Ink, and Maya Bailey and Tookie Carter, my mentors that took me under there, I really got to learn more about like the struggle of like becoming a black tattoo artist and all the stuff that they had to do just to get like respect because they started in the 90s, the early.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it was really segmented then, and they had to do a lot of fighting just to get respect and stuff like that. So by the time I came in, we had a few at least prominent black tattoo shops, and City of Ink was one. And that's kind of like at that time, there was still a lot of black tattoo artists that weren't getting accepted at other shops and stuff like that. So, a place like City of Ink that again was predominantly black, it was like these safe havens where like our clientele could come and they could feel safe and, feel like their skin mattered, like for lack of better words. And by saying that, there is a thing in the tattoo industry where and I know that it's trying to improve. I'm sure it's not there yet, but where a lot of white tattoo artists, because they can't do all these crazy colors and stuff on like black skin, they would kind of rush through it or turn the machine up really, like turn the speed up really high on the machine. To no fault to all of them. Like I'm not saying they try to do bad tattoos or anything like that, but they'd be like, oh, this person's darker. Let me turn the speed of the machine up. When the melanin in our skin is actually, it makes our skin tighter. That's why we age like a little more gracefully, I guess, like without, wrinkle wise. And because of that tighter skin, we keloid easier, meaning that you actually need
Mm.
to be down, but
Yeah,
a
you
lot.
need to be a bit softer with the touch because you'll, yeah.
And so because of that, there were a lot like black people when we look at our tattoos, they would look scarred up and they just didn't look as professional. But shops like City of Ink, they really started to educate the greater masses of like this is how you actually do tattoo black skin. Like you can't put color in there. Obviously, there are certain stipulations to that. Like you can't put like a gray or a muted color isn't going to look great on dark skin, but you can put a color with a lot of chroma into it.
But that's I like to I thought of the analogy that like it's like a carpenter claiming you can't do stuff with a certain type of wood. The thing is, you just might not be used to working with that
Yeah.
type of wood, but you can still do it. It may have a different result, but it still can be done. Like I like the analogy of the filter because that very much takes away from dermatology, which has looked into this quite a bit by now. And the thing is, it is just melanin is a different filter.
Yeah.
If you could actually take it away, the same ink colors would look exactly the same on you and my skin tone. I just am transparent because I'm ginger. So if I don't have tattoos, I'm see-through. But a black skin, it's wrong to say you can't do color. I like it more when people realistically say, hey, it'll look different, because some people get the wrong idea. You still mainly see tattoos on white skin when you go on social media. So young black people, I imagine, could get the wrong idea of how it's going to look, but you could still be realistic. And if you don't know how to work with black skin, you should just be honest about it. I think a lot of white tattooers, because there are some that learn, and some learn. Like I had Robbie Ripple, if you know about him, on the first episode of this, good friend of mine, and he talked about how because he started tattooing in a Florida ghetto, he actually learned, despite being Puerto Rican, tattooing on white skin, despite being more Latin/white. He learned like that. So he knew from the start that, okay, yeah, it works. You just got to know what you're doing. You just got to know how it's going to show up in a darker skin tone.
Exactly. And it's kind of just like what you said, just instead of just going around saying it can't be done, just being like, I'm not the person that can do it. Like social media is a real thing. Like you can point them in the direction of like, I don't do like tribal tattoos, not because
exactly. It's the same thing with styles. Like you're never going to be like, oh yeah, I'll do that for you, even though you don't know fuck all what you're doing. Like
better than me. Like they actually, so you should go to them, and that person will appreciate it. Like I'd rather I'd rather you tell me who would enjoy doing this versus, you begrudgingly doing it, and stuff like that. So
that's the thing, like you still get that hate now, and I'm not going to point anyone out because I don't know if they said it with the intention they had. But years ago, I saw some work Miriam Lumpini had done.
okay.
And I want to because I had one of my best mates here in Copenhagen, which is quite rare, is adopted from Haiti. So he's black, but grew up with white parents. And he wanted to know, because he always plays around with the thought of getting a tattoo, but he wants to get color. He doesn't like black and gray. And he thought, it can't be done. So I posted on my Facebook because I had a few of his friends also asking me sometimes. I said, hey, to all the black people I know, you can get really colorful tattoos. You just got to know who you're going to work with. You got to research and find the right artist because you can get colorful. It might not look like mine, but you can color. And immediately, Russian tattoo artist who works in Denmark, she commented on it and said, "Oh no, you're giving them false hope. Color doesn't work in dark skin, and you're just calling us all racist with this post." And I hadn't even said anything of the sort. Yeah, I just told her, "I didn't say racist. You said that."
Yeah,
that's what I like.
Right. That's what people are into first. And again, like obviously, this tattoo artist, like they at least are taking the stab at it, and you can go through further questions with them. Like, if you want to, this is a fresh tattoo. Do you have any healed pics so I can see how they look healed? A lot of time with our tattoo clients that want color, and especially when I see that they want an unrealistic result, I show them this is how these look healed. Yeah. Yes, it's a colored tattoo. Yes, the color isn't quite as crazy vibrant as day one, but you can look at it and tell these are I know the colors, that is red.
That's the thing, if you show that to a client that they still want the color, then they are also part of it. If they want that still, then it's still a great tattoo. That's at least how I see it. I think some artists sadly get caught up more in how their art looks and how they want it to look, rather than it's also still something you very intimately share with the client. So they're part of this. They're sort of part of judging if this was a successful tattoo.
Right.
So I mean, even in another example, you might have done it 2 years ago where you thought that's not your best work, or it's not like the good stuff you do today. It can still be the client's favorite tattoo ever.
Oh, for sure.
It can still be something that they think the work's amazing. There's another side to this,
Right.
There's the artist part. I know that you of course want to do stuff, and you want to improve, and you want to do your best all the time. But my point is just that for some people, if a person thinks, hey, it mutes, fine with me. I still want the color. Then that's great. That's how they want that too.
Exactly. And that's perfectly fine.
Sorry, I hope I didn't bring down the mood, Melvin.
Oh no, yeah, no,
yeah. But I have a weird question, sort of lighthearted but sort of strange. What's the weirdest stigma you faced as a black tattoo artist?
I mean, weird is interesting. I feel like my career has been pretty straight laced. Back when I started tattooing, again, I tattooed at a majority white shop, and it was in a country city in Alabama. I turned down doing any Confederate flags and stuff like that. And mind you, in that city, a few, especially the locals, they would have Confederate flags on their cars and stuff like that. And I'm from Alabama. As sucky as it is, you get immune to that. It's kind of you just kind of distance yourself,
And sort of you desensitized.
I appreciate. Look, we live in such an interesting world now. I almost appreciate honesty. If that's what you like and that's what you're into, it at least lets me know that's who you are and that's cool. So you're giving me my own judgment of how I want to operate around you. And again, the funny part, obviously working at that shop, I'm not gonna go so far to be I was friends with a lot of these people, but I was able to relate to them on a human level, have fun with them, joke around, stuff like that, without it being any kind of racist tension in the air or anything like that. They're just people, and they got brought up a certain way, and hey, that flag means something to him, even if I don't agree with like the connotations behind it, you know. But there would be, every now and then I would have somebody come in and it'd be like my turn to tattoo, and they'd be like, can you do it for me? And to this day, I've never done a Confederate flag tattoo on anybody because that's what I like kind of learned to draw the line. It was like because of what my people have been through and us being in the
Oh,
South,
absolutely.
comfortable like tattooing that. And I had only one time it was one guy. It was an older guy and his wife, and you know, they were really like upset about it because I guess they had been waiting a while, and now it's one of the tattoo artists is free, and it would be like one of the two people that work there, and he was pretty pissed of like it ain't hate is heritage and all of that, and no matter what he was saying, I was just like I'm not doing that, But
Yeah,
at
man.
the end of the day, I do try to be I try, especially as a tattoo artist, in the service industry, I try to like make sure the clients are happy, but I'm like, well, not at the expense of me feeling
Well, you
like,
got to also, take care of yourself. You can't,
right. And to this day, I'm glad like that I took that stance. And mind you, he was the only
absolutely.
thing like they got upset about it. Everybody else understood, like, you're black. Why would you want to do this? Like, you know what I mean? But
I mean, it's already. I would argue, and I know I'm from Europe, so like take it with a grain of salt. Any Americans listening in, but I would argue that of course you don't want to see these things, and it's already amicable that you're saying, okay, I live here, so I have to deal with certain stuff that I see in the day to day. But of course you should be allowed to set some boundaries here. And on the whole Confederate flag thing, it would be a bit like if Germany just decided to have Nazi flags here and there. Sometimes, like
to be
or if
honest,
we still in Denmark because we were occupied by the Nazis in the Second World War, flew their flags in there. No, like the Confederacy lost. I mean, I'm not going to get into a whole history thing, but it's just from a
no,
European standpoint, it seems fucking weird to have that many statues and flags from the side that lost in a country that's united, so to speak.
I mean, we got to come from an honest space. Like, you can champion the flag and all of that, but a lot of black people died. We were
Yeah.
slaves. Like
Yep.
that elicit the same emotion from us. Even like, I mean, millennia later, like, it does not elicit the same respect and like good feelings. It's like, no, like because of that, like, black people are still trying to overcome a lot of the stuff that happened under that flag. So yeah, I'm not going like you can be proud of it without me like making you feel terrible about it. But my honest feelings, I don't have the same feelings about that flag.
But it sort of gets into another thing I've been wondering myself, because you hear the same thing from female tattooers sometimes, that you get a lot less, like there's not too much freedom when you start out as an apprentice already, even if you're white, cisgendered. You sort of have to learn the ropes. But I can't imagine it gets less bad when you are either white, black, or woman, or especially if you might be a black woman for that matter. But like,
Yeah.
I can imagine you might have had to swallow a lot of camels, to put it that way, when you started out.
Yeah. Again, being like getting taught by hippies, it definitely helped. It's funny too because I don't think they were hippies, but they were to me. I can only speak my truth. And then we started getting more like tattoo, like rocker cool, like people there, but they felt very hippie-ish. And the owner, he was because it definitely didn't have any like race involved because he's like a really like nice dude, but he was somebody who he didn't yell a lot. My apprenticeship wasn't one of the like my apprentices. They'll tell you that I treat them so nice. I treat them like friends. Like I'm really
Oh, nice.
like trying to smooth them through the situation. And it's one of them things where it's like I just didn't feel like I don't feel like all that hazing and yelling and stuff like that. I don't feel like that's a great way to bring up somebody. And I definitely didn't need to be brought up that way. But if the trash wasn't like taken out, it was a lot of like, hey Melvin, get your ass in here, take out the trash. And just a lot of that, like it was a lot of like, they felt like we felt like that was the way to raise the apprentices. And mind you, he did it to everybody. So it wasn't like
Oh,
it
no,
was just
no, no.
even though it did start to die down as I think artists like myself became like the lead artists in the shop and we weren't cracking the whip. That's a terrible analogy, but
Yeah, I'm very happy you said that and not me, to be honest.
like that to the apprentices. So I think he just naturally kind of like calmed down more. Like he'd still get angry, like don't get me wrong, but he wouldn't just yell just to yell. I think he would try to take it a little bit smoother of an approach. But for me, it was like weird, like me being at that time the only black person working there. And we did have another guy who was he was half black, but best way to say this. He was half black, but it was just one of them things where he was super accepted by like white people, like because he more so in that culture and stuff like that. But mind you, it's funny because whenever and he passed away not too long ago, but whenever I would be by myself with him, he'd like kind of do his code switch and just kind of be like, "How we doing, man?" Blah blah blah. But then like when he wasn't just around me, it might be like, I love that guy to death because he was himself, but I could see his internal battle from like balancing both of those worlds where, he like he'd look at him, you could tell he had something in him, but was it black? Was it something else or whatever? Like, but you could tell it was white in there, a lot of it. And, he listened to Slipknot and all of these other things that, guys like me, we don't listen to that, like hard, heavy metal,
I mean, you can't find black people that like metal as well, but I get your point. But
yeah, like, for me, he was trying to relate to me knowing I wasn't like listening to that, if that makes sense.
right. Yeah.
He'd be like, oh, I like these certain rappers and stuff like that. And I'd be like, oh man, you talking about that old school stuff. But at the end of the day, I can tell like the environment was more of a culture shock to me. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Of like, man, we just gonna let this white dude yell at us, like, and several of my coworkers, whenever I would like want to quit because I'm like, I don't like being yelled at, they would pull me to the side and like, you got a bright future, and trust me, that's just how he is. Once you become a tattoo artist, like he cuts it off. It's not, race never even came up, but internally, I feel like I didn't like being yelled at like that. But by the time I was a tattoo artist, they were right. Like he's just how he treats apprentices, he never.
Well, there's a lot of that in the industry in general. I mean, I'm not an apprentice. I never did an apprenticeship. I'm not a tattoo artist. So I'm speaking from the outside. But I think there is sort of a misconception of keeping up this, like it has to be very difficult to earn because it's already you don't get paid to be an apprentice, so that should be hardship enough, I feel. But there's this whole idea worldwide, I would argue, that if you're an apprentice, it's just part of the parcel that you get yelled at, you get a bit of abuse, you do all the. I'm not even disagreeing with doing the menial labor. Even my dad, who was a plumber, would get some of the shitty tasks. Even though he got paid to be a plumber's apprentice, with how the system works in Denmark. But the thing is this, the abuse towards apprentices is sometimes a bit misplaced, I think.
Yeah, so no, I agree. It's weird. I could tell he was just, again, being like a hippie, like, and us not being like a cool like shop and all of that. We tattoo majority college kids, like frat boys and stuff. He was just trying to bring us up what he thought would be the right way, like in the tattoo culture, but. That's.
I mean, I think it's well intentioned for all I can say about it. It's still misplaced, but I don't think it's ill intentioned in many cases.
Yeah, he wanted us to earn it. Like that was, I could tell. Like everybody has a hard apprenticeship, right? Like he wanted us to earn it. And I mean, to this day, I tell my apprentices, all the time, I'll be like, man, y'all got it easy compared to me. Now, the flip side of that is I'm not going to be mean to you, but I'm going to work you a lot. And when they don't do the work, I tell them like how disappointed I am and stuff like that, and be like, this can change your life. This career can change your life, and you're fumbling the opportunity, stuff like that. And I think that to me, instead of like trying to beat them down, I'm always trying to pick them up to be their best self, and when they're not doing tasks, I'm like, you're an artist, you got to draw all the time. So they're always drawing like continuously, which, to me, I'm like, yeah, there's only so much trash you can take out. There's only so many windows you can wash. There's only so many like things you can like do inventory on. Like, I want you fucking the majority of the time drawing and getting better at the craft so we can like go over it and have you be the best tattoo artist you can be,
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I can't compare it to my own stuff. I've been an academic most of my life, so it's a different, sort of world in many ways. But from what I hear, from what I know from academia and especially sociology, a mix of positive reinforcement with realism, injected, that's a great way to do it because you're not beating them down, but you're sort of also injecting a reality that, hey, you got to do the work to make it happen.
Yeah.
You're going to help them, but you can only help them. It's like one of my lecturers said when I did my undergrad many years ago, that he will help us even in his spare time, but we got to do the work so he can help us. We can't just come in empty-handed and expect him to do the work for us.
Right. No, and it made me I'm just thinking about something, especially since it's a sociology based podcast. I I've had probably 7 apprentices to this day. I've only had 3 of them get through my grueling apprenticeship of all this work and stuff like that, and all 3 of them were black men, which is great. But I have tried to. There were. Well, one of them I shouldn't count too much, but I had like 2 black women. One was mixed race, but definitely was, she was the most loud and proud black girl I know. And one of them was she was white, but the white girl, she had a lot of other things that she had to like she was trying to do like medical school too in the same time, and so it didn't work out. But both of those girls, and one of them, the one that I was the mixed one, she went through almost her whole apprenticeship. She was learning how to tattoo and stuff like that, and she ended up quitting at the very end, saying like I wasn't pushing her hard enough, and that she thought I would be more hands-on and stuff like that. She thought she would be like tattooing a lot sooner. So that's one of the things even I'm trying to grow as a mentor. And the other girl, she just wasn't a good match because she didn't want to work. So that's a whole different thing.
No, fair. I mean, yeah.
No, like it's still a little scar there of like, even I have to learn that balance of how hard do I push them versus like, I don't want to do too much. I know mental health is a big thing, and I don't want to push them too hard. So even I'm trying to find like, where's that balance of like, I got to still be on task and push them while being able to honor the fact that I don't want to like feel like I'm singling them out. I almost feel like I might have been even easier on them because they're women. And for me, I do think that that's not a good thing. It's like because everybody wants to be treated equally. And I was trying to be more of a pacifist when, I'm a father of a daughter. And so I'm almost treating them like my daughters of like, I got to take it even easier on you. But well, if I'm going to treat the boys a little harsher, not harsher, I mean like, hey man, go split that window, like I'm saying it nice, but I wouldn't put the girls to do that. And, not saying that they need to do more manual labor, but like when they're, their artwork, instead of me being like, I would give them a lot more leeway on like deadlines and stuff like that, because I'm like, especially when they would tell me like, oh, I've had a bad week, or, I'm going through this like mental crisis, and I'll be like, oh, take the time off, do whatever. But at the same time, as a mentor, I need to be like, all right, with that being said, I need this due by this time, because at the end of the day, these clients aren't going to be okay with that, or you're not going to be making any money. So I have to also apply that same pressure. So that's still a goal of mine. I want to make sure that I can bring a woman of color through my whole apprenticeship program, and to be a tattoo artist, because I feel like that is still a stain on my like resume, because I want to make sure that, women are getting these same opportunities. And mine, there's so many like super dope, like black female tattoo artists. I'm friends with so many of them. And like you just said, Miriam, like, like look at how great they are,
I wish I could remember her name as well, but I know in New Orleans, the oldest functioning shop in New Orleans is run by a black woman as well.
Jackie.
She's been the runner of it since it opened. Like,
yeah. And so it's things like that I want to be able to supply on that part of the culture as well. I haven't been able to quite hit that check mark yet, but
I can only speak as an educator, or at least I have been a little bit of an educator when I attempted to do a PhD. And the best thing I would say, because you're already doing a lot of the work, I think already thinking critically as you are about this already shows most of the work. Like that's already such a big step. But the other thing is you already sort of said what you need to do. You're just implementing it as you get used to it, which is this whole transparency thing, which I think is great. Like both for the men and the women that want to apprentice under you. There's like making sure they know what they need to do, but also giving them the space to, life happens, because that's the real stress factor for most of us when we don't feel there's a space for shit. My dad died, or fuck, I just had a massive thing come up with with my job, or education, or whatever, So I think giving the space for that is great, while also you of course need to maintain that they have a realistic picture of what the industry is like and what's expected of them.
Exactly. So I can't wait to make that happen. But like as we were talking, I was like, man, I'm kind of thinking about apprenticeships like now. But yeah.
I mean, so if it doesn't happen anytime soon with a stranger, you can always teach your daughter when she comes of age. Like,
Right. We'll get that check mark out of the way some kind of way.
yeah, old Melvin will be sitting there like, teaching his daughter. That'll be great as well. Legacy to two of them.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I'm sure about it when it's all said and done. Like I'll have many women that have I've been able to help facilitate to be tattoo artists and stuff like that. So just giving people the opportunity that I feel like deserve it, really, at the end of the day. But I want to make sure, even as a mentor, I'm trying to grow up. Like, I had one of those things. I had a hard apprenticeship, so I'm trying to give an easy apprenticeship. But I think it's somewhere in the middle, And even my last apprentice, because he was an apprentice after her, I did bulk up like, this is when I need things done. This is, and I saw how it molded him into such a better tattoo artist. Like he came out a superstar, and I was like, oh, it's because I was a lot more just really into like how I was bringing him up. I was really made him like take deadline series. I made him have a lot of accountability, and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like I see where even I can grow. And to me, that's where the dialogue comes in. Like I want them to feel safe to be able to tell me their needs and stuff too. And I can tell them how I can like help facilitate that, but I don't want to.
You shouldn't.
Yeah, I didn't even know she was going through anything. As far as like our apprenticeship, I thought like that was a bright spot in her life. But I even had to let her take a month off because of mental health. And then when she came back, she was like, "Yeah, like this apprenticeship is a big part of that." And I was like, "Whoa, I didn't know." And so because she needed more money and she still wasn't a tattoo artist, I didn't think she was ready personally. But she needed me to be a lot more hands-on and showing her why I didn't think she was ready. And these are the things we're going to focus on and stuff like that, rather than like, I guess my system of here was an assignment. When you get done with it, just let me know. Maybe I needed to, I've done that did that with my next apprentice. And I want to make sure no matter who my apprentices are, I'm like, I really like how that template was. And I want to make sure that I'm also someone who is demanding a lot without breaking anybody.
Well, I think, but again, I think you're already doing a lot of like you're going in the right direction because you're already talking about the right things. And as you said, the real teachers, no matter what it is, if it's tattooing, if it's sociology, if it's plumbing, hairdressing, whatever it is, you always learn yourself as well with every new student / apprentice that comes in. So of course, I mean, it might not necessarily have been that they were women. It could also just have been that you were trying out something new, and they there's some coincidence to this. As we make different choices, different people that we collide with each other. So I don't think it's all just your fault or you fucked up or anything like that. I think you're learning as well.
Right.
I mean, I can't speak for anything other than what you're telling me. I mean, but from what the sound of it, it sounds like you're doing the right thing and you're still also learning the mentorship thing. And I mean, you meet people that have tattooed for even longer than you have. You've tattooed since 2004. That still talk about still learning how to be a great mentor and still learning how to get apprentices through right and all that stuff, I think the real troublesome people, not to digress too far, are the people that like have had apprentices and have done it the same way every time without ever changing a thing or listening or anything. That's the problem.
Right. I agree.
I mean, I've at least through working for different tattoo publications, not good ones, but still, I've heard some horror stories at times from how some mentors could be, especially, guys that got brought up in the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that, where they haven't changed anything since then, and it's just
I hear the story.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
I'm kind of an anomaly in the tattoo industry anyway. Like, once you got a private studio and kind of do your own thing, like I'm not looking for validation from anybody. Like, so I just want to like do cool tattoos and connect with cool people. So I do hear those stories though, like, and yeah, they can be a lot. At least.
I mean, I for example, love watching the inked videos of different tattoo artists talking about fun stories they've had. Always a great time. And some of the apprenticeship ones get especially If anybody ever wants to hear some really incredible, both for good and bad reasons, stories, that's a good place to start, to be honest.
Yeah, the Ink videos are a good watch.
Absolutely. I think you'll see you in one at one point, but we'll see. I can imagine you being in them.
Yeah, let's.
Another thing I've noticed as well, which I hope people think in the right way, is that I also like that you're sort of paying it forward, because you've seen that there was not many like yourself in the industry at the time, so now you're helping others from your culture, I would say, because I don't know community, because you've also moved around to that, so that's a bit more of a all these terms are a bit, more fluid than people give them credit for, but I would say it's nice to see that you're also paying it forward to other people from a similar background to yourself and helping them get into the industry, because that's still, from what I can at least see on social media and when you go around conventions, different places, still not a lot of you guys, and that comes together with that a lot of people don't want to teach or don't think they can apprentice people of color.
Right. Yeah, it's important to me. When, like I said, when I came in, that barrier was super easy. Like, I won't lie. Just because, again, I didn't know how lucky I was at the time, but I really lucked out by walking into the right shop. And so when people approach me for apprenticeships, like I said, like one of the girls was white. Like, I didn't like discriminate against her. Like, she had a chance like everybody else. It's just I don't want to put up all these walls and that you can't get through just because I just want the best tattoo artist. And if you happen to look like me, just know that I'm not gonna. It's a safe space. Come on, show me your stuff so I can see it. I'm going to judge you off of a lot of other things, work ethic, judge you off of like the actual quality of the work, stuff like that. And if it's a fit, it's a fit, so
I think that's really cool that it's not, there's no special treatment. It's just fair across the board. It's judgment there, because I think that's the misunderstanding as well sometimes, that a lot of people think, oh, you're giving special treatment. No, a lot of people are rather giving detrimental treatment to people of color sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's not necessarily that they're giving special treatment to other people that are from the same culture. It's that they are not treating other people fairly.
Exactly. So that's just what I believe in. So, with that being said, with the results, me having 3 guys that do look like me, it does feel good to know that they didn't have to worry about it. Each one of these guys told me, that I changed their life. And that's a great feeling to know, like, wow, like 3 whole
amazing feeling.
Yeah, 3 whole bloodlines like have been changed because I felt that, they came to me and I felt like they had what it took to be able to, decorate or, tell people's story on their skin, and I think that's pretty amazing, and I'm blessed to have had that opportunity and to be able to, again, pay it forward,
I think that's awesome. I just had a thought, not to digress from this, but another thing I really like seeing, which I think I see with you, I think I see it a bit with Oba Jackson as well, and with Aaron, who was on Ink Master recently. But also like that, traditionally, when you did see black tattoo artists, they all always seem to just do one thing, which was black and gray realism, and just, the traditional images you would also see of white guys, of Greek statues, of religious iconography and stuff like that. But I like seeing these new styles develop, like your one where you mix in sort of a manga-esque sort of style and black and African culture. Aaron, who's doing this Black Americana traditional kind of style, which is really cool, and Oba, who mixes in all this African mythology and heritage into these amazing pop art pieces. Like, I love seeing these new styles develop, because I think, it's very simple to say why from a sociological perspective, is because there's also more people of color voices entering the space.
Right.
And there's less discrimination, both internally and externally. Like you were talking about earlier, there's a lot of double stuff happening for black men and women, where not only are people that look like me often discriminating against you guys, and there's institutional prejudice and discrimination that, but often there's also internal, where it's like, oh, we don't do that. You'll sometimes hear people say, like one of my best friend who here in Denmark, who, adopted Haitian, all that stuff, he used to hide that he likes comic books and that from his black friends and just talk about it with me, because he was under the impression that, oh no, they don't do that. And it's like, so what? You do.
Yeah. Like, if I've learned nothing else in this lifetime, in mind, I used to be people pleasing, number one, trying to just blend in, stuff like that. I've grown really, really comfortable just being myself, telling people like the stuff I'm into, and stuff like that. And it's been great to me, you know. I haven't ever felt happier, and that reflects in my art too. Like I think I've been the most honest about my art these days because I put a lot of like really like honest stuff in there, you know. Like, and it's cool to see like the people that are attracted to my art, you know, they walk very similar paths of life to me, you know, and it's just been great. It's just been great.
That's incredible. It's incredible art, and I was very much drawn to that even before I ever started hearing some of the other stuff you talked about, like a documentary and stuff like that. I remember the main reason I followed you first of all was because I saw your awesome, cool like art style, where in a weird way it reminded me a bit of the art style of Boondocks, and then there was your own personal twist to it as well that was really cool. And these like sort of fantasy. I've always been a massive nerd, so there's these like fantasy elements to some of the stuff and sci-fi elements to some of the other stuff that I really liked as well. It looks really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just hell, I think I'm before anything, I'm a nerd.
Amen, brother. Amen. Like, oh,
All the stuff I enjoy, you know, there goes a Switch, there goes toys, there goes all of these are comics, you know. Like,
I almost wanted to pull out my Switch when we started this call because I have a Switch too.
yeah, like, you know, it's these are the things. I'm 38. These are the things that bring me joy, you know, whenever, you know, I get a chance. Like I'm nerding out. Like that's what makes me feel good. And again,
That's good to hear.
gray. I mean, it's not black and white. It's shades of gray. Like a lot of stuff I do, people would consider like cool. Like I like basketball and sports, and you know, like girls and stuff. Like, well, I'm too old for that now. I can't be chasing women. My life is a lot more settled down now. But you know, like things people would say are cool, but like you know, again, like I used to like try to hide the nerdy stuff, like as much as I could. Like it was kind of like just a little. I was always drawing in class and stuff, but I would kind of downplay it. And now it's like, nah, like you know, it kind of works in my favor. Like all of a sudden, nerd culture is like cooler than it needs to be.
I mean, I feel the same, mate. We both went through that, man. I bet we both used to get beaten up if people saw we had nerdy hobbies and shit like that.
What the hell? Like
shit, man. I used to go to my favorite comic book store and I would hide the bag from it in another bag if I bought magic cards or like new comic books, because I knew if I got to when I got to my hometown with the train, if any of the local bullies saw that bag, they would just have an excuse to go and beat the shit out of me.
Yeah, man. Like you know, so it's just it's weird to see the culture like change, but I'm okay with it. You know, like
it's great.
You know, me and my table of friends used to get called weird for sitting down drawing Dragon Ball in middle school at lunch. But hey, man, like Dragon Ball's cool now. I'm not mad at it.
But the thing is, I think this thing with it being more accepted has also led to that it gets more accepted in other groups as well. Like, for example, among Black people, because you used to think, and I think sadly, and not to digress to a whole other subculture in tattooing, but a lot of nerd culture still doesn't really allow much space for both women or people of color sometimes. But I'm so happy when you see, like, for example, the comedian Ify Nwadiwe, if anybody knows him, who's a black guy, and he's super nerdy and even has these nerdy anime tattoos above his knees and stuff like that. That's awesome to see.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's cool to know that, oh, fuck, man, this is something we can share across different cultures and stuff like that. And we can all, I mean, you and me both, like, we're close in age. I'm 33, you're 38. We both grew up watching Dragon Ball in middle school, you know? Mm-hmm. Even though we're in different countries and from different cultural backgrounds, we've connected through this nerd shit, you know?
And these are the things to me that I was just thinking about this today. Like literally, and mind you, this is gonna get kind of morbid because I'm gonna come from like a mental health space. But you know, when people get depressed, like you kind of like lose that like will to like live. Like what's even keeping me going, you know? And the thing that gets you out of the depression is you have to find these like things that make you kind of excited to live. Like I kind of had this joke. I was like, crap, I gotta make sure I'm here until at least 2025 because Grand Theft Auto coming out, right? It's these little things that give us joy to want to like be here. And I realize like as creators, as artists, we have a big part of that, you know, like, so like even with my comics, there are people who are like, yo, when is the next one coming out? You know, and I'm like, wow, like that's a lot of not power, but that's a lot of beautiful energy of like this person looks forward to the thing that you create. It makes them want to continue. Like, mind,
But I think that also shows in your tattooing as well, because it's sort of like, I hate when people say, oh, too many artists come in and then we lose jobs. No, because the thing is, a guy like you that suddenly could give people a space, people of color space that never could see somebody like themselves tattoo somewhere, that just allows them to have somewhere to go. It doesn't take clients away from anybody else.
none of that.
It allows people that may never have felt they could actually dare go into that space before to now enter it and feel accepted in it.
For sure. And even with that, like, you know, people that aren't tattoo artists, they look forward to the tattoos we post. You know, like it makes them feel good. Like at the end of the day, it's a nice little positive dopamine hit. You know, there's so many like things that they could be taking in online, but they follow us and they are along with that journey and they get excited about it and they want to see the new things we create. And especially like you said, when it like really like resonates with them. So, you know, I found that to be a very like powerful gift all of a sudden, to be like, wow, to be able to like, you know, just do something that comes natural to myself and be able to have people connect with it and feel more alive, you know. And it, you know, it just makes me feel amazing. Even my walk of life, you know, it makes me feel grateful for the walk of life that I had to walk in order to get to where I am now, you know, because I grew up poor. You know, my dad went to jail for 10 years when I was like 10 to 20, you know, and that was hard. Like not growing up with like, you know, my father like there, you know, having to see him through a jail cell and stuff like that. And pretty much trying to like learn how to be a man, like through letters and through my own, but it was nothing like my dad, you know, like being there and being able to teach and coach me. And I had to bump my head a lot in my 20s, especially with women, just because I didn't have like the role model that I related to the most, being able to sit there and tell me like, this is how, you know, you treat women, you know. And now because of that walk and me having to teach myself and me again going through all of these healing modalities and stuff like that, that's why something like a comic like I Hate Healing exists. And it's because, let me tell you my story as from the Black man's perspective of how I got from here to being here and in a better headspace, you know. And so yeah, you become grateful for like, you know, these things that you probably wouldn't have been like, you're like, man, like, yeah, if I could change my life, I wouldn't do that stuff. But it's like, no, but that takes away from your journey, you know.
Yeah, true.
One block to like just add on.
That's another thing I thought about, which is I also like how, and I think this is going to happen more because I luckily see more and more other podcasts that pop up and say stuff like this. And I saw this in one podcast. It's like, I hate the idea that people are like, oh, fuck this, let's keep these people out, because the best thing for innovation and developing new stuff is diversity. Like getting more different voices in. And I think that's really cool, both in the comic book space like you are in, but also in the tattoo industry. When you see people like you or women or trans people or queer people come in, we get all these new cool ideas because there's more different opinions and more different ideas and minds and perspectives.
Yeah, I think so. You know, these are perspectives that we never opened ourselves up to. And even if it's a different walk of life, it's like, wow, like I'm seeing life through a different lens. And, you know, the funniest thing, you'll see that mirror your own life, no matter who you are. Like you'll see a lot of those experiences mirror your own life and see how maybe they got through some type of adversity or whatever. And that'll make you kind of motivated to like, you know, maybe make a change for yourself or maybe, you know, cut off a certain person or stop doing a certain activity or add something to your life. So I love seeing all of the just the different perspectives. That's just kind of how I look at it. We live in a multiverse of madness in my head. We live in a shared multiverse. By shared is like, from my perspective, you know, you're from your perspective, you know, and we get to all tell each other these different perspectives of the exact same thing happening around us. And it's beautiful, I think, you know.
I think that's a really beautiful point to sort of start rounding off on with this episode before we start another one on on this,
Right.
which is that I think I completely agree. The only way you can truly learn somebody else's experience is being open to them telling you it and talking to one another and learning from one another. And I think that's what a lot of people that are more bigoted or more set in their ways often do, that they put on the blinders and then they only listen to their perspective and people with the same perspective or similar perspectives. Whereas what you do and what I do, I would say, is that we sort of embrace this thing. Like, I can't speak for you. I grew up in a mostly white nation with mostly people that look like me, but I've always sought out this. I always want to know how other people went through it and how what they have gone and what they can teach me about their side of things, you know? Even though I'm an atheist, for example, as well, I'll still listen to people, like, if they have a spiritual epiphany about stuff, or because it's still another perspective that can be worth learning about, and
No,
it'll help you understand other people's side of things.
right. And that's what it's about. You know, we don't have to agree with each other. We don't have to like convince each other to be like me. It's no, it's like we're just taking it in and respecting that person for that honesty, you know, and seeing if it affects us in a certain type of way. Like, you know, like, and I think that that's where the beauty is, you know. Sometimes when I see people like just arguing, like they're two sides on a line, I'm like, no one's even trying to dig into the nuance there and like learn and understand. It's just two brick walls like clashing. And I'm like, this is an opportunity for growth and nobody's like taking advantage of it. And that's kind of disheartening. So like open conversations like this. And, you know, I'd love to see like personally, like, you know, like things where people from two very like different point of views, like will have a civil talk with each other and like see that nuance, you know, like, and seeing these people change right in front of our eyes, you know. I think more stuff like that would be beautiful. I wish that that's what social media really was.
I mean, I think there's good sides to social media, but there is also a lot of echo chambers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But to say something funny, I hope before I let you plug yourself, Melvin, and thank you very much for being on here, is that not to sound like Terry Crews, but the whole thing with like embracing diversity, that's why gatekeeping is dumb. Like that, like absolutely. Like
Yeah.
and if you don't like Terry Crews, then you gotta get a funny bone. He's fucking awesome, to be honest. Like absolutely. Sorry, that's just my own personal, like, love that guy.
Right.
Absolutely. But Melvin, seriously, I can't thank you enough for being on here, and it's been incredible to have you on, and such an enlightening thing, both for me and I hope for anybody listening or watching. It's been eye-opening for you as well, because this is incredible, and I couldn't have wished for a greater start to this series. I hope it's going to be a long sub-series, could I call it, in my podcast, something along those lines. Definitely going to get back to this, hopefully. As I said, next episode in this series will be with Oba Jackson, which is going to be a different perspective, but also awesome. African American, like just like Melvin, with his own perspective as well. But I also hope to get more Black women on here. I hope to get other people of color on here as a little teaser next year, because of Danish history, you could say, in a way, and not a good side of it, but our own colonizing history with Greenland. I have an Inuit, half Danish, half Inuit tattooer on next year. Very famous here, a bit famous in the space if you follow anything to do with tattoo archaeology, called Maya Sialuk. She's going to be on here. But to return to the moment at hand, Melvin, once again, I thank you so much for being on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Yeah. And please, we know about your comic book. 2 comic strips. Where can people find? First of all, where can people find those?
I mainly do a lot of stuff on Instagram these days. So, at the Loveless Society is where you can find my main brand. You can also go to Loveless Cupid, that has the comic, and you can also go to at I Hate Healing. That's the comic on trauma and learning about how you get through it. You can find me on at Loveless Melvin on Instagram as well. And I'm like at Loveless Melvin on every other social media that you can find. And yeah, you go to lovelesssociety.com and it will link you to quite a bit of that stuff. So yeah, it's been fun. I really enjoyed myself, and yeah, thank you.
Before you go, I want to know, because that's just because of me, because I really, as I said earlier, I really like the teaser, I would call it, you've done with your documentary. And I saw also that in October, at least you posted about still working on it. Right. When can we expect more of your documentary?
So I'm reworking it now, because I was making it like a series. So now I'm trying to make it like a little bit like more succinct, but 2024 for sure. Like I'm trying to have it out probably like spring 2024. You'll definitely see some big movement on that. So if you follow in the socials, especially at Loveless Melvin, you'll see it.
Fantastic. Well, Melvin, thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Hello again, everybody. What an episode, and thank you so much to Melvin for being on the podcast. And to anybody out there celebrating it, happy Black History Month to people. I hope everybody's having a great February and doing what they can to always, learn, be aware, and do something for representation and helping others, paying it forward. It's an awesome thing to do in this world. And now we are continuing this success, I would say, next in a couple of weeks' time now with Oba Jackson, another amazing African American artist, also a very cool advocate for both queer and people of color in the tattoo industry. It's going to be quite a fantastic episode. And I can't wait for you guys to enjoy that one as well. Oba is an incredible artist that also infuses African and Egyptian and African American culture and iconography into his tattoo art and also other forms of art he does. It's absolutely phenomenal. I recommend people checking it out prior to the episode as well. And I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks' time.